Hey, it's Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. So, in this is basically going to be a book review. And I've been struggling with how to a format for how I want to do book reviews because I don't want to do one of those like break it down, itemize everything, spend a half an hour saying about this character or that. I've tried that, and I just don't want to come back to them. I want to like read a book or watch a TV show or whatever, give my thoughts on it, and without going like into. I don't want to make them like work level projects where I'm having you know. So I think I have an idea where I'm just gonna aim to do these little 5-10 minute about the book, a little bit of background of whether I had to learn something about the book or whether the book taught me something or whether I knew something in the book, whatever. So, and this particular book, I usually read one serious book, like one nonfiction, and one fiction book, and maybe some comics and whatever. So this is my serious book. It's I don't know if oh yeah, I'll make it real easy. It's Season of Blood by Fergal Keane. It's about the Rawandan genocide of 1994, which now I was 1994, 91, 18. So I was like 20 years old when it happened. And while I had read about many of the horrible genocides of the past, such as the Holocaust and all of World War II, Stalin's mass murder of his own people, Mao's triple genocides, the killing fields, all that sort of stuff. Um, to my conscious memory, this is the first one that I was sort of aware of that happened in my lifetime. Meaning, well, no, I mean the killing fields happened in my lifetime too, but like that I was aware of while it was occurring, and I was actively thinking in terms of the political, like what should the U.S. do or shouldn't do, and obviously I was against Bill Clinton and the Democrats at the time, although I kind of believed some candidates for president, but his foreign policy was where I thought it was lacking. So, and but I'll get to that later. So, as far as the book is, now there are other books and movies and whatever about this topic. I think I've seen something called Hotel Rwanda at one point. I think I've read some magazine articles and back when news magazines used to be really good, like Newsweek and all that, before they all went left wing crazy. And I didn't learn. I learned specific details that were new from this book, right? But I did not. It did not change my perspective on the genocide or obviously genocide is bad, right? But then on the event, I didn't say, well, I'm changing my political thoughts on what the U.S. should have done. No, okay. So that being said, what information have I given you in the link? The good reads about this book, because then the Wikipedia page about the author Fergal Keane, then the Britannica.com history summary articles about the Rwandan genocide in 1994. So there's some background info that's outside this book. Now this is it reads more like a collection of essays by a journalist rather than say a gigantic news article or whatever. Um, my one major criticism is this guy wears his political viewpoint on his sleeve throughout the thing. Okay, obviously, given that it's, if as I recall, the structure, the Tutsis are the far were being when we say the Rwandan genocide, we mean what they did to the Tutsis, but there was counter killing by the Tutsi forces of the Hutus. Um, Again, this is why we shouldn't get involved. Like, as horrible as it sounds when these things happen, you know, there's a history in back which is partial to timeline. This thing had been building for over 100 years, right? And like at the point the U.S. got involved, which was to say we really didn't get very involved at all, other than giving the UN some logistical support, um, which was the right decision. Okay, other the when people are intent on killing one another, and it's not your country, it's some other country. It's very difficult for you as an outsider to do anything about it. Okay, it's like and to maybe take the tone down a bit. They say never get between two women when they fight, right? Because they'll both turn on you and claw your eyes out. You know, um, there was no winner. I mean, no matter what we did anyone did outsiders, the best you could have done, which I think was the one where I would support in interceding in any of these sort of things, is the people who want to get out, for the most part, the people being killed, the innocent, get them out, get the kids out, get the orphans out, stop the kids, and bring them to another country, and don't. But the thing is, don't ever let them go back. Like they have to be taught in a way that where you're not from there anymore. And because if again, partly what happened here is there was a series of rebellions and government counter rebellions over the decades, and forces would be exiled, and then they'd raise, and then the survivors of one side's massacres would go to another country and raise money and propaganda, and they'd come back and do the same thing, and that's the story in a lot of these sort of countries with this event. So that's the overriding lesson of it. Now, as to the book itself, when it presents the horrors of what was occurring, when we say we have first world problems in the U.S., right? You don't comprehend that until you've, like what these guys saw when they traveled in Rwanda. Not just the horrors of the genocide, but the horrors of the mentality of people. Well, you actually see some of it because, one of the first steps to the physical genocide is, othering people which begins to teach you a culture of hatred against a particular subset of your population. That might be some interesting new thoughts for you now, and that clearly occurred there, right? And this book is very good about that, about showing these guys' horrors as they went through this country and saw children who people running and hiding from their neighbors who, the thing I did find interesting, which I did learn, in the book, was way back when the European colonizers were controlling this area, right, and trying to formalize it, they issued these ID cards that forcibly made people identify with the particular tribe that they were in, Hutus, Tutsis, Twa, and whatever else. Now, the thing is, as I understand it from reading, and don't quote me as an expert on this, these people, the natives, the Aboriginal Rwandans or whatever, right, that wasn't necessarily a division they had, right? These tribes might have existed, but the way I believe it was the Belgium made them identify themselves. Like you were a Hutu if you were a wealthy landowner or whatever, and a Tutsi if you weren't, and it had very little to do with your tribal background or less of it, and more to do with your post-economic status in the European world order, as it were. I mean, so the legacy of that ID card led to horrors 50, 60, 70, and 100 years later, So that's something I did learn. Overall, it's a good book. In terms of nonfiction books, it's probably it's reasonably well written. It's more well written than the content it contains, if you understand what I'm saying. The guy's journalistic skills clearly shine through, but I think his content gets harmed by his political perspective. And again, genocide is wrong, okay? But the big genocide was against the Tutsis, of course. But the Hutus were being killed as well, and if the rebels were it seemed so. And when they went to the government territory, which was the Hutu-controlled government, and he was clearly, his perspective in the book was like, well, I'm going there to get them good with the journalism, rather than going there to tell the story so we can figure out this mess and learn from our mistakes as human beings and all that. It's not his job as a journalist to get them. It's his job to present the information, so then we have our other authorities, our governmental authorities and all that they can do the getting, right? We do, so that's where the book fails to me in terms of his personal disgust at the and from having to see all the genocide colored his journalistic integrity, and I don't blame him. I mean, I don't know if I would. He went through that whole country for weeks and weeks and months. I don't think I would have went to one day. I would have walked in and first pile of bias I found, I would have been out. I don't need that. I don't want my country to be like that, and I don't want to live in a country like that, or even travel to a country like that. So I'd recommend reading this book, like a 7 out of 10 type of thing. It's informative, but do not let this be your sole source of information about the Rwandan genocide of 1994. Get some other sources. That's right. Like if this was the only thing I ever read about this, and I didn't have my depth of knowledge on general history and whatever, this would color me incorrectly as to the events that occurred. The factual events are correct, in that there was the massacres and all that sort of stuff. It's the behind-the-scenes politics and history that generated that his personal biases influence. So there's my 2 thoughts. I think this is going to be my format for book reviews. Just my thoughts about the book, recommending it and not. And if you like this format, guys, the casual format I'm calling it, where I don't want to have a bunch of charts or whatever, let me know. My name is Matt. This is Rebel 73. Happy Memorial Day. Thank God we live in the U.S. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.